Hi, this time I'm in Helsinki and I have a very interesting technique to share with you. But first I have to go and get myself some hard drives, because I'm filling up my hard drive space very quickly, because I'm shooting 5K RAW 60p with the GH5. Okay, now we have hard drives, so next let me show you the technique that I was talking about. How to shoot 5K RAW 60p with the GH5. And before we start, I just want to say that this technique is rather experimental, so don't get your hopes up. There's a lot of limitations, but yes, it's possible. Okay, I came to this other big camera store here in Helsinki and I'll show you the details of this technique. How to set up a camera and what to do on the computer. Let's go. Okay, let's go through the settings. The secret is that we are not actually using any of the video modes. We're using still mode. And then on the second dial you choose this burst mode. And now we have a camera that shoots 12 frames per second of 5K RAW. Well, that's not 60p, but I'll show you how to fake the rest of the frames on the computer. And then on the menus, let me turn off the camera, and on the menus you go to this first one, and here you choose RAW for the still image quality, and here you choose the burst rate to high, not M, so high. And now we have a camera that shoots 12 frames per second. And the second thing is that I'll recommend stopping down your lens 1 or 2 stops, because the lenses are often not so sharp when it's wide open. So 1 or 2 stops down and you can really see the sharpness or the lack of sharpness when you're shooting 5K. And then try to use as sharp lenses as you have. And then one more thing is that I often like to put the stabilization off, because in still mode the stabilization is optimized for individual frames, not for movement. So I like to have it off, and then I'll stabilize the footage in post. Okay, those are the settings for the camera. So you basically just press down the shutter button and you keep it down, and you can see the buffer filling up, and that's basically your record limit. And then after the buffer is filled up, it takes quite some time to record all the data to the memory card. But that's it. So let's talk about limitations. There's basically 4 limitations. First, you don't get any sound. The second is that you only get a couple of seconds of real-time footage, though you can spread it out in post. The third one is that you cannot really have anything that moves really quickly in the frame, because then the computer is not able to recreate the in-between frames between the real frames, because we only get 12 frames with the GH5, so then we have to recreate more frames in between. And if those real frames are too far apart, the computer is not able to recreate the in-between frames. And then the fourth thing is that this is rather post-processing intensive, so don't do this when you want to be quick. Okay, those are the limitations, but there's one situation where those limitations don't matter, that this technique is really good for, and it's architecture footage. And I actually did one example. It's this modern Gothic church near my home that I really like, so you can check it out and see how good the image quality is with this technique. I developed this technique when I was working with architecture companies, and I wanted my videos to look as good as my stills. But later on I heard that there was a name for this technique as well. It's called quick lapse, and there was this one, I think a Norwegian group that was able to recreate the same technique, and there's a link in the description to how they did it. And they used Nikon cameras, and they were able to film in 8K. I'm seeing a friend here at Kamppi. This is a big shopping mall as well. And I just wanted to say that this video is not 5K, this is plain 4K, because 5K is a pain in the ass to upload to YouTube. Well, you'll see, I'll show you later on. Okay, let's do the post-processing part. I'll open this memory card in Adobe Bridge, and I already have organized the footage into subfolders, because it's much easier to work with the footage when it's organized. So I recommend you organize the footage into subfolders. So the next step that you have to do is open After Effects, And before we import this footage to After Effects, we have to go to Preferences, Import, and here in the sequence footage, choose this number. Make this number the number you want to output your footage. If you want to make 24 frames per second footage, put this to 24. If you want to output 60 frames per second, put it to 60. In this case, we want 60. And then we'll import these raw photo sequences into After Effects. I'll go into one of these subfolders, choose the first clip, and here in the options you can see that the camera raw sequence is opened, and it will import all of the footage inside the folder into After Effects, and it will first open it up in Adobe Camera Raw. And here, just make sure that the white balance is okay, your exposure is good, and make sure that nothing is clipping, no shadow detail or highlight detail is lost. And here in lens corrections, I like to click this remove chromatic aberrations, because it will make the image look more sharp. And of course you can do all kinds of things in the Camera Raw settings, but I will just leave it for you. And then the first thing in After Effects, when we have the sequence here, I will transcode the sequence to ProRes. And the reason is that it's much quicker to play around with the ProRes files instead of the original RAW files. And I just happened to have already done it, so I'm not gonna actually do it. So we'll just import the raw ProRes files, because this is like a cooking, so everything just happens to be done already. So I'll import in the ProRes file that we just rendered, and now I will start working with this. Hey, this next part is rather complicated, and if you're not an engineer, just skip to 8 minutes 54 seconds. And I will give you a script that will do all this automatically for you. You don't have to do a thing. So I will create the sequence, and the first thing that I will do to this, I will apply a warp stabilizing effect. So I will stabilize the footage, because it's often a bit jerky when you're shooting the burst mode. Let's put some rather moderate number like 5 to this warp stabilizing, and you normally don't have to do anything to this warp stabilizing. After, just click here and let it analyze, and it will stabilize the footage. And next you pre-compose this layer, and if this is too complicated, just try to hang on. I will show you an easier way to do this after this I've done this. And then now we have the image pre-composed, and now I want to spread the sequence. I want to spread the footage. I want to make it longer, because I want to create those extra frames in between. And in this case, if we want to make it 60 frames per second, so we start from 12 frames per second, we want to have 60 frames. So it means that we have to make we have to make it 5 times longer. So let's just do that. So composition settings, and here it's 37 frames. So let's just make a short calculation. 37 frames multiplied by 5, it's 185. So let's put that number here, 185 frames. So it's 2 seconds, 25 frames. And now we have a longer composition, and let's double click time, enable time remapping, so we can spread, so we can make it longer. And next I'll apply time warp effect. So in the time warp effect, first we set the speed. So if we want to make it 5 times longer, I'll put this to 20%. And the vector detail is basically how closely you want your computer to look at the footage, and I put it to 90. And I've been playing around with these settings. I think 50 works quite well with this footage. And after it has run the analyzing for the stabilization, it's ready for rendering out. And now we can just render it out, and I would like to render it out as ProRes. If you want to make this quicker, you can basically use a script that I have created. You just choose the clip that you want to post-process, and then you go File, Scripts, Run a Script File, and then you choose the script file you want to utilize. And because we want to make it 5 times longer, I choose this one, 5x, and in a blink of an eye, it did all the things that I did manually just now before. So you can choose as many clips of these and choose all of them and just run the script, and it will do all this setting up for you. And then you just have to wait for the stabilization to be done, and then you can render it out.
The Milky Way, I thought I'm watching, spinning me, some sort of star, all the stars, up on the mountain, a coffee shop, I'm the Western Cross. Yeah, man!
one more thing that I have to show you. How to export 5K footage to YouTube. Because you cannot do it the normal way. Just one more thing. So, welcome to my place. Let's do the last part. Now we have the footage. So how to export and upload it to YouTube. I didn't do much editing. I will just render out this one clip for demonstration purposes. So you go to File, you go to Export, and you go to Media. And normally we use the H.264 codec, but actually it doesn't support 5K or above resolutions. So then we have two options. We can use QuickTime and ProRes, render out our file to 5K. This will create huge files and it will take a long time to upload them to YouTube. But then we have another option. We can use WebM codec. And this is something that doesn't ship with Premiere by itself. You have to go and to this website. I have the link in the description and download this free plugin to enable WebM encoding for Premiere Pro. And then here on the settings, I'll recommend you turn off 2-pass encoding. The 2-pass encoding will make your footage a bit better, but it will take twice as long. And this is already a really slow codec, so you don't want to spread the time you have to wait for it to render. And then just choose where to export. I will just export it to the desktop and export. And this couple of seconds of footage will take quite a long time to export. If you have a slow computer, it's gonna take even longer. And you can just imagine how long it will take if you have like a whole documentary and you want to export it out in 5K. And then you can upload this WebM file to YouTube the normal way. Okay, and if you want to speed up this process and you want to use the scripts that I created, you can join my Facebook Messenger list and you can access my download vault. If you're part of my Messenger list already, you can just go to download vault. I just added this there and you can start using this. It's okay. That's for the tutorial. I hope it wasn't too complicated. See you in the next one. Bye.